came out. Will you do
Built over
reaction?
Interractions.
Did you see that? Katarina and Garen are together.
Is out.
I am this close to starting a separate reaction channel. At this point, I have 3 videos already recorded. I recorded my reaction to the Piltover Interactions. I already explained all the Easter eggs in the CZECH comic. And I am working on the next Rift news. But every time I get ready to release a new video, something new comes up. No, this time it is not the new 13 skins that are being teased on PvE. This time it is Aphelios himself. And because I know how mind-blowing Aphelios is, considering that it took me 1 hour to go through his abilities on stream, he is something of a hot topic right now. And seeing how quick Skin Spotlight was with releasing his interactions, there was no way I was going to wait with Aphelios' interactions. So without further ado, let's get onto another reaction. Now before we start, I have to say I did already go through his voice on my own. That's because the interactions video is 10 minutes long, but you can also check out the voice on its own, and the voice itself is 20 minutes long. Now it's not because there would be an incredible amount of lines, it's mostly because Aphelios himself doesn't speak. And because if you watched our lore video, you know that it is because he drinks poison that makes him numb to everything, which means that he can't speak either. So Riot did the clever thing of allowing his sister, Leona, to speak for him. That's why you will hear a feminine voice. That is not actually the voice of Aphelios. But what I'm trying to say is that the reason why it is 20 minutes long is because the echo on the voice is very long, so it is artificially prolonged by all the sound effects. With that said, unfortunately not a lot of voice lines are that interesting. But there are some interesting Easter eggs hidden in them. So as you'll see, I will probably skip through a lot of these voice lines. But enough mumbling, let's get into the interactions themselves.
Yuumi is much friendlier when she visits me in the spirit realm, snuggling at my feet while I read book and imagine the rain.
First of all, we are already starting with some interesting Easter eggs. Now, just to remind everyone, Aphelios is the person who is in the physical realm. He is on Mount Targon and he is defending the Lunari. Leona, his sister, is locked up in a temple that is in the spirit realm, and she is the one who is summoning the magical weapons into Aphelios' hands. Now, right next to this, we have the Yordles, who are beings that are traveling between the spirit realm and the physical realm using their portals. So because Leona is locked up in the spirit realm and Yuumi is a spiritual being, it is obvious that these two characters can meet. In fact, because this voice line doesn't suggest what would happen if these two characters actually met, I think it is confirmed that Leona did meet Yuumi in the past. Because remember, just like it is in Legends of Runeterra, the interactions of champions in League of Legends suggest what would happen if the two characters met. But here Leona is not speculating, she is confirming that she met Yuumi in the past. Now that is Easter egg number 1. Easter egg number 2 is that while she's reading a book, she is imagining the rain. That's because she is locked up in a fortress inside the spirit realm. She has not seen the outside world in a long time. So all Leona can do inside the spirit realm is imagine what the rain looks like. I told you there are going to be some deep Easter eggs. Anyway, let's keep going.
To become a vessel for the heavens, one only needs faith.
That is absolutely correct. No matter who became a Targonian aspect, all of them had faith. Tariq believed in pushing his limits to protect his friends. That's why he became the aspect of the protector. Leona was faithful to the sun. Diana was faithful to the moon. Zoe was handpicked by the aspect of Twilight. That is a different story. And just like Tariq, Pantheon was also pushing his limits to become a warrior. That's why he is the aspect of war. No matter what Targonian aspect we are talking about, generally they are not normal people. They are always devoted to some kind of a faith. Maybe besides Tariq, who just believed in himself.
Our aspect has returned, bringing darkness.
This is interesting. Our aspect has returned. The thing is, Diana never really left. Diana was always there. Like, people knew that a new aspect of the moon arrived. But in the story, Diana did actually leave physically Mount Targon. The last we heard about Diana is when she traveled to Ionia. This was mentioned in the story of Nami, where the Marai, which are these ocean people, were trading the abyssal perils for artifacts from the aspect of the moon. And when Nami traveled to Targon to get another artifact for the abyssal peril, she learned that the aspect of the moon was missing, because she traveled to Ionia. So I wonder if this line suggests that the storyline moved forward, and Diana now returned from Ionia. And if that's the case, we need to get a story that will explain what she was even doing in Ionia. In fact, there will be another line about this in a bit.
Diana knows the moon's name, Aphelios. I can feel it on her heart.
This is also interesting because this voice line is very vague. A moon's name can be anything. It can mean that the moon is actually called something, but the deeper meaning here is probably that the moon is representing something. Maybe the moon itself is a vessel for a god, and that god has a name. You know, something along those lines. So what I think Elune is suggesting here is that Diana knows the truth behind the moon. That the moon itself might be a being on its own. Because if not, this line is very boring. Who cares what a rock in the space is called?
The aspect of the moon. What is she fleeing? What has she done?
That's the second line I wanted to mention. See, maybe she fled Targon and she fled to Ionia because she was running away from something. Maybe she had done something on Targon and she could fix it in Ionia. This line can have many different meanings. But what's curious is that the story never mentioned that Diana would do anything wrong. It's usually the Solari who are hunting the Lunari. And if Diana was ever fleeing away from something, it was from the Solari who were trying to hunt her down. So the line, what has she done, is strange. All Diana has really done is that she found a temple, she became the aspect of the moon, and now she traveled away. Now right after that, Leona also became an aspect. And through the aspect of the sun, Leona also learned the truth. I'm saying the truth because it seems like the moon and the sun are saying different things to their aspects. So we are not really sure what is the real truth. But either way, Leona learned that Diana and Leona need to work together. And that's why Leona is now looking for Diana, who is now missing. That is the great mystery that these lines are pointing at. And I do believe that the plotline of this grand story will be revealed when we get the extra story about Aphelios. You know, the color story. Usually these extra stories just show us what the champions do when they battle. But sometimes they reveal extra story. I really hope that is going to be the case with Aphelios.
We were born to twin destinies, to tragedy, as the sisters were before us.
See, you need to remember that although Kael and Morgana are in Demacia, they are still Targonian aspects. So obviously, the Lunari and the Solari and everyone else from Targon would know about Kael and Morgana as well. So despite them being in totally different regions right now, it is cool to see that Aphelios and Elune do have their own interactions with Kael and Morgana. Which, I will agree with Elune, both storylines are quite tragic. Although Kael and Morgana work together and then they separated. I don't think that's going to be the case with Aphelios and Elune. They are just siblings that are bound together forever.
The moon is with us in darkness, but it is not there for us.
This is another interesting line. Whenever Elune mentions the darkness, she's talking about the fact that the Lunari were hiding in the darkness when the Solari ruled Targon. Now the story reveals that the celestial cycles are turning and the Solari will no longer rule Targon. The Lunari are rising in power again, so they are emerging from the darkness. So yes, the moon was with them in the darkness. It was in the darkness where their faith remained alive. But when she says, but it is not there for us, that is a whole another thing to talk about. This suggests that even though the Lunari are worshipping the moon, and they think they know what the moon is about, there is a deeper truth about the moon, which again may suggest that the moon on its own is its own separate entity. And there is a reason why the moon is hovering above Runeterra. Maybe, and just maybe, the moon is actually the guardian of the planet. That's why the story said that we have the physical moon and the spirit moon in the spirit realm. Maybe it is protecting Runeterra from both realms. And it is not there just to grant power to the Lunari. Again, this is something that might get revealed in the extra story.
The Solari do not see. We shine brightest with another's light.
This is the truth that Leona learned in her story. We don't know what she learned, but we know that Leona is now looking for Diana because they need to work together. And here, Elune is directly confirming it as well. Now, the theory is that the void is coming, or that there is a greater darkness that will envelop Runeterra. That might be partially where the cycles on Runeterra are turning. Maybe the Targonian gods don't want just one side to rule Targon. They need both the Lunari and the Solari to work together. So again, all of these are just breadcrumbs for future stories. But we know that something major is going to happen.
Soraka knows our pain, yet tells us not to feel it, to deny ourselves.
This is a super cool voice line. See, if you don't remember, Soraka is a celestial being that witnessed all the pain that humans have to suffer on Runeterra. And although all the other celestials just decided to ignore humans or just to get rid of them, Soraka felt empathetic and she fell down onto Runeterra and she disguised herself as a being from that planet. That way she could directly interact with humans and help them. And right now she's on a quest to bring out the best in the hearts of humans. This was just a TLDR version of Soraka's story, but in reality it is far more complicated. I suggest looking up the story of Syndra and Soraka. But that is why this voice line says that Soraka knows their pain. But when she tells them to not feel it or to deny it, that's because Soraka is trying to get rid of all the pain on Runeterra. She wants everyone to live happily. But the irony is that Aphelios and Elune can be together only when Aphelios is engulfed in pain. Because again, in order for the two to get connected, Aphelios needs to drink poison that engulfs him in pain. And that pain makes him numb to all feelings. And it is only then when he's totally empty that Elune can interact with him. So yes, we can add in another breadcrumb about Soraka.
The heavens turn toward darkness. Now is our time.
Again, this is a reference to the celestial cycles turning. The heavens turning towards the darkness means that the moon now has more power. It is not just the sun overpowering the entire Targon.
Mother Moon, guide them.
Just quickly want to mention Mother Moon. It's a feminine character. That could play into the fact that it is an entity on its own.
Out of darkness, the moon is born anew.
By the way, when he respawns, you can see that he's drinking the poison. That is a nice little touch by the animators.
The fortress is quiet. If only you could be here, Fel. You would make this stone seem loud.
This line is honestly one of my favorites. It has no impact on the lore, it is not important at all. But this line specifically tells us that Elune is somewhere in the fortress, in the spirit realm. And the way she delivers this line absolutely makes me believe that she's locked up somewhere in the spirit realm, alone, in a fortress where she's totally isolated from the rest of the world, and it is quiet there. And you can kind of feel it from the echoes in her voice as well. There is nothing around, so her voice is echoing in the fortress. And when she says that he would make the stone seem loud, of course, because he is mute, that makes this line so much more relatable. I don't know why, but I absolutely love this line.
The Solari call us heretics, but when darkness comes, brother, they will need our light.
Again, this is what we talked about at the beginning of this video, or in the middle. The Solari and the Lunari need to work together, but what is more important here is that she mentions that darkness comes. Now, for the most part, she was referring to the darkness being the place where the Lunari were hiding. They were hiding in the shadows of Mount Targon, in the darkness. But here, she talks about the darkness as the enemy. And this is where the theory crafting really begins. By saying darkness, does she still mean the Lunari? So that when the Lunari come, the Solari will need their light to stay alive besides each other. Or is she really talking about the darkness being this greater enemy? Something that was teased many years ago when Pantheon got his first updated story. For about 3 years now, we know that a greater darkness is coming, and the Targonian aspects know about it. We can assume it is the Void, but we never got more information. And again, this is another detail pointing at the fact that the darkness is coming. And maybe finally, this story will be completed with the entire storyline of Aphelios.
Night embrace you.
And that was the last line. I told you there is not going to be many super interesting lines, but the ones that are interesting probably tease something bigger. What I got from these interactions is that Riot has greater plans to finally finish that entire storyline of the Greater Darkness coming. As I mentioned, this was teased the first time when Pantheon got his first updated story. This was the story after Aurelian was released. It's the one when Pantheon beat a couple of guys in the desert and suddenly he saw a comet streaking down in the heavens. That comet is supposed to herald some kind of doom coming. But even though that story is older, we know it is still canon because it was updated when Pantheon got his visual rework. The update just made sure that when he was mentioned in the story, his visual description matched what he now looks like in-game. So, Doom is really coming. But what's better than that, the story again is moving forward. I love how 2019 is nothing but moving stories forward. Demacia is in an amazing place now. Noxus with Swain and Darius are also great. Freljord with Volibear are mind-blowing. And now we are getting a fourth massive storyline, which is all about Targon. If 2019 was all about setting up the world and pushing the stories forward a little bit, 2020 will probably go beyond our imaginations. My only question is, if the moon is actually an entity on its own, and Elune can summon weapons from the moon, Is the moon a character from Halo? Because I am willing to forgive that Halo sniper rifle. But a gravity rocket launcher? That's a bit futuristic. The Martians are still eating rats after all. Hey, did you know that we have social media and Twitch where we talk about other League facts and stories? And did you know that we have neat mugs and shirts too? The links to all of that will be below. And as always, thank you, come again.